Hello and welcome to another random YouTube video request reaction stream. As always, if you're watching the VOD, there will be timestamps with the links to the videos in the description. Do check that out, of course. You can also find in the description a link to my Discord, where you can follow me, share stuff, share videos for like the next stream. If you wanted, as you can see, we have a channel, a random reaction stream video request. You can share that. Then you have the link to my stream element where you can donate to support me and request videos. And the link to my Patreon where you can support me monthly. Over there, I make polls every week between movie and anime, and you can vote for what I will react to. Pretty straightforward. And by the monthly support, you have different rewards going from like video reaction to anime to movie. You can choose what you want. So take a look. Take a look. All I can say, someone joined. Dead Viking. Okay. So yeah. As always, random YouTube reaction stream. We check out videos on YouTube, up to 30 minutes max. You can share as many as you want, and I'll watch the one that interests me. It can be about any topic, not music though. Music we keep for the Sunday stream. Well, the topic can be music, but don't share music is what I mean, right? Like a song. It can be history, nature, science, technology, video essay, memes, fails, all that kind of random categories, I guess. To give you an idea of the stuff I've already got open, I've got this, and yeah, that's the gist of it. So yeah, again, a good amount of variety on this stream. I always like to do a lot of variety. Actually, as you can see, I still haven't uploaded the video from last time, and since the channel, mess that happened, I haven't really been sure of what to do. Again, I think this channel we're on right now used to be the extra channel where I uploaded like the clip from this stream, but right now I don't know if I like where to put the new stuff. I mean, I did make a new extra channel, so do I put it over there? Probably. Yeah, probably. I guess so. We'll see. I think after the stream though I need to stop being lazy and actually make a decision, yeah. By the way, kind of a little tangent, but with this new channel, I reached 500 subs, which I was able to apply for monetization. And the old channel, I was never able to have membership. It was like banned from me for having too many copyright strike and all that. But with this one, yeah, I'm able to have membership, and I'm launching it on Sunday. There'll be 3 tiers. The same as on Patreon, so you can request video reaction, and also you can have like special emoji basically, which some of them are basically from Discord, yeah. So it should be interesting. I'm launching that on Sunday stream. I don't know if people will really join, but again, I know some people couldn't really join the Patreon because of like the payment method. So with YouTube it should be fine, right? And Super Chat are back as well. You couldn't Super Chat anymore, but now you can again, I think. Just a little thing. Mentioning it. Hello Neil, you're fast today. A new video after 7 months. Alright, good to see him back then. Right, yeah. The most exciting tournament in sports. Okay. So, let us watch some videos. What do we start with? Oh, this one is way too long, by the way. I forgot to share it, but yeah, sorry, it's a bit too long. It's a 50-minute video. It's over the limit, so I'll have to pass for this one. Sorry. How about we start with this one? Hello Clément, good. How about you? This one on Balatia, I will be sad that I never watch it. I mean, Balatia, I know you seem to get a bit annoyed sometimes that I don't watch every video you share, but you share a lot of videos, so I'm doing what I can. I know you've shared this one multiple times, but it is what it is. I can't do everything, obviously. So this is by Haute Compass. An Indian merchant became Cambodia's first king. A story of Indianization. Doing good. Awesome.
India and Southeast Asia have a rich, overlapping history. In art, architecture, language, and religion, India and Southeast Asia share striking similarities. But how and when did Southeast Asia become so Indianized? The answer is hidden in an ancient Cambodian love story. Cambodia's origins are anything but ordinary. The love between a native princess and an Indian merchant served as its foundation. Yup, Cambodia's first king was an Indian merchant, a man known as Kondinya.
But I guess if you go to like, a less developed country with a ton of money as a merchant, it's probably not crazy hard to become a king, yeah?
Kondinya's story begins in the 1st century CE. His historical name, Kondinya, provides the first insight into his life, because it's not his true given name. Kondinya is a reference to a Brahmin community that populates the Andhra Orissa coast, a region commonly known as Kalinga. Kalinga was a powerhouse of early Indian trade, and their merchant mariners were called Sadhava. Kondinya himself was a Brahmin Sadhava, and it's likely that he was wealthy and well-connected. He was the owner of one or more large merchant vessels, or boidas, the expertly crafted, square-sailed ships of Kalinga. There was at least one major manufacturing center for boidas at Golubai on Lake Chilika. Lake Chilika also served as a port of departure for merchants. As a large body of water with a narrow opening to the sea, it offered a natural, protected harbor. But before we turn our focus back to Kondinya, let's take a look at the bigger picture. In this era, foreign trade was so extensive that port cities like Nagapatnam had bazaars crowded with crates of imported goods. This trade is associated with a long period of rising prosperity in both South and Southeast Asia. But trade wasn't limited to the east. In the west, Rome had just conquered Egypt, and thanks to the revitalization of old Egyptian maritime routes, Romans and Indians began trading extensively. Roman senators were hyper-concerned about hyper-deflation, as so much of their silver was being depleted by being sent to India through trade. So with all that in mind, let's get back to Kondinya. Kondinya set sail for South...
Kind of a random thought, but I always wondered, like, I actually know very little about the Roman Empire. I feel like I know some stuff, right, like most people, but I've never, like, looked deep into it. And, it lasted for such a long time, right? But did they ever try to fully take over the world, the Roman Empire? Like, did they want to? They just didn't manage to? I don't know, because they were always expanding, right? Well, for a long time, until, shrinking. I don't actually know, yeah.
Southeast Asia in the 1st century CE. But how did he actually get there? In that era, Indian mariners would wait for seasonal monsoon winds coming from the northeast. Using these winds, they quickly sailed down the coast, all the way to Sri Lanka. Along the way, mariners would conduct trade at urban centers on the coast. Then, from the northern tip of Sri Lanka, Indian mariners would cut a straight path to Southeast Asia, across the Bay of Bengal. Severe weather and rampant piracy made this crossing extremely dangerous. But dangers notwithstanding, they would arrive in Southeast Asia at the mouth of the Andaman Sea. From here, Indian mariners could continue into the Straits of Malacca, hug the southern coast of Sumatra all the way to Java, make a brief land crossing at the Isthmus of Kra. We don't know which specific route Kondinya took, but we do know that he eventually found himself in the Gulf of Thailand, ready to do business. Kondinya could have been carrying a variety of high-demand Indian goods, cotton textiles, jewelry, and metalware. In addition, he could have been carrying Western goods. All of this valuable cargo put a target on Kondinya's back. Pirates would almost certainly be lurking on the fringes. And wouldn't you know it, they were. Kondinya's ship was surprise attacked by local pirates.
It's so interesting, like, for a long time, when I think of pirate, I think of, the one rebelling against the crown and fighting the English, right? That's the pirate idea, but technically there's been pirates all throughout the history of, seafaring, right? But I guess none of the other, era of pirates have been as famous, and so they're never really mentioned, but pirates has always been a thing. And outside of that one era of, the pirates fighting the British, it's never been very romanticized. All other era of pirates is kind of seen as bad, obviously, right? It's interesting.
He and his crew fought bravely and successfully repulsed the pirates, but the ship was damaged during the attack. Kondinya was forced to beach the ship for repairs. While beached, Kondinya and his crew must have feared a second attack, but they needn't have worried. for the pirates had been employed by a local chieftain, whose daughter, Soma, had fallen in love with the handsome young merchant. It was Kondinya's bravery during the attack that won her affections. Soma sent over a marriage proposal. Kondinya must have been surprised, or perhaps he feared for his life should he reject it. In the end, he accepted the proposal. This is considered a landmark event in Cambodian history, the establishment of its first true kingdom, with an Indian merchant sitting on its throne. But Kondinya and Soma's marriage was not the last of its kind. It would serve as a blueprint for many Indian Southeast Asian political marriages.
I mean, I'm still kind of confused because he came with only one ship, right? There's no way he had, like, you know, that insane amount of money on just one ship to become king and rule the kingdom. I don't know.
Marriages to come. We're interested in the capital T truth. So why did Soma actually marry Kondinya? And why were Indian Southeast Asian political marriages so common? In the late classical era, Southeast Asia was characterized by fragile, politically fractured states. But change was on the horizon. With rising trade came an influx of wealth, and new agricultural developments led to a population boom. State reforms were seen as necessary to address these new challenges, and that's where Indianization comes in. Indian political and cultural traditions had already solved these societal challenges. India was already densely populated, wealthy, and urbanized. For hundreds of years, in fact. Simply put, Indianization was a solution to the problems that Southeast Asia now faced. And who better to implement Indianization than Indians themselves? Educated Indians were imported in droves. For example, Brahmin clerks were brought from India to serve in Southeast Asian administrations. And most of these Indian immigrants married local women, often noble women. Access to nobility gave Indian...
So, like, tell me if this is fucked up, but is this like a positive colonization? Like, well, it's not colonization because they're not like actually taking over by force, right? But you know, yeah, no, actually that's stupid. No? I take that back. I was gonna say, like, in some colonization, sometimes they bring, like, you know, the modern world, like technology, system of government, and try to advance the country super fast. And this seems to be what they're doing here, but like not in a taking over the country to do it, more in, like, you know, mixing the people to do it. Does that make sense?
Immigrants institutional legitimacy. In other words, they were given power and the means to wield it. Chinese historical records are illuminating in this regard. These records make reference to several Indian immigrants who became royals in Cambodia. Reports include one king of Funan, Chandana, yes, another immigrant from India, who sent a gift of elephants to Jin Dynasty China. Another one of these reports include an Indian Brahmin whose name also translates to Kondinya. This Kondinya II supposedly heard a voice telling him that he was a rightful ruler of Funan, and so he journeyed to the east. When he arrived in Funan, reports indicate that he was welcomed warmly and was selected as their new king, presumably by marrying a local princess. The Chinese report even...
I wish things worked out that great in my life. I mean, I have a dream about something and then I do it and everybody's like, yeah, I mean, you're right, you need to be king.
Points out, Kondinya changed all the laws to conform to the system of India. Active yet peaceful social transformation is rare, and it's even more rare for foreigners to lead the transformation. That's why the Indianization of Southeast Asia is such a surprising historical moment. To summarize,
it does sound fake in the sense of, like, every other story like this is, you know, like the people of the country won't be happy with it. There'll be civil war with some tribes or some sides not wanting this to happen, or there'll be a straight up war with the king of the already established country. You know, like, obviously this sounds like positive, you know, improving the country for the better, but in most other, like, historical event like this, it ends up with some massive war and conflict. It's a classic.
Foreign immigrants were brought in to fill the ranks of elite society. These new immigrants were actually encouraged to shape the local culture so that it more closely resembled their own. And all of this happened without threats, violence, or other pressure. But Indianization wasn't a one-time event. It was a continuous process occurring over a 1,000-year period. The story of Kondinya and Soma is just one of many in this larger saga. So returning to our original question, why did Soma choose Kondinya? The answer should be obvious now. Kondinya was exactly what she needed to succeed in an increasingly Indianized world. As a Southeast Asian noblewoman, Soma could offer institutional legitimacy. Kondinya, on the other hand, was a wealthy and well-connected merchant with extensive political and commercial networks in India. Kondinya's Indianness was an advantage with real-world, measurable consequences. It's worth noting, Soma's family was not that powerful. They controlled only a small sub-region of Khmer territory, but Kondinya's arrival changed their fortunes. Together, Kondinya and Soma expanded this humble state into a large and prosperous kingdom. Perhaps this rapid expansion was made possible by Kondinya's Indianness. He had the tools to fast-track the process of Indianization after all.
Indianness.
Between the 4th and 8th centuries CE, several prosperous empires emerged in India and Southeast Asia. Each of these entities were heavily engaged in the Indianization process, the Guptas and the Pallavas exporting their culture, and Srivijaya importing it. But this wasn't entirely a one-way exchange. Southeast Asia had at least some impact on the subcontinent too. Consider the Pallava dynasty. The Pallavas were a wealthy and powerful trading empire whose origins have been the subject of a spirited debate. Early historians suggested Persian roots, while later historians suggested Tamil or Telugu roots. These historians had an incomplete view, however. Recent scholarship has revealed a hybrid South Indian and Southeast Asian origin. See, the Pallava dynasty began with the South Indian king's marriage to a queen who was referred to as a Naga. The Naga queen may have actually been Southeast Asian. Consider the term Naga itself. The term Naga, which denotes a race of mythical snake humans, has long been associated with the people of Southeast Asia. In Cambodia, for example, Khmer royalty made Naga iconography essential to their identity, and Naga carvings litter their temples and palaces. Perhaps this connection shouldn't be too surprising, given what we know about the Pallava dynasty. The Pallavas had a long history of inserting themselves into international affairs in the rest of Asia. For example, in the early 700s, they entered into a mutual defense pact with Tang Dynasty China. But let's explore another story from the dynasty's past. In 731 CE, the Pallavas were on the brink of collapse. Their king, Parameshvara, suddenly died in battle, leaving no direct heir. There was a danger that rival kingdoms would encroach on their territory. The Pallavas had to find the proper king to take the throne, and they had to do it quickly. A formal delegation was created to find Hiranya, the descendant of an ancient Pallava prince named Bhima. Bhima was an ancestor of the now deceased king, so his descendants, Hiranya and others, would have a right to take the throne. But there was a catch. Hiranya was not to be found in India, for Bhima had traveled abroad, married a Southeast Asian princess, and had become the ruler of a foreign kingdom through that marriage. Now I'd say that's a familiar story, don't you think? So with all this in mind, the Pallava delegation boarded a ship to Southeast Asia to speak to Bhima's descendant, King Hiranyavarman. It's believed that he was the leader of the Champa kingdom, located in modern-day Vietnam. When they arrived at Hiranya's court, the delegation was warmly received. And soon enough, the delegation got down to business. They asked for one of Hiranya's sons to come back to India and take the Pallava throne. Hiranya's youngest son agreed to this mission. At just 12 years old, he made the journey to South India. He was given the regnal name Nandivarman II and ascended the Pallava.
It's such a thing with like the ancient world, right? I mean, you know, we've kind of gone the opposite direction, right? Where like everybody is old as fuck when they become president and kings these days, right? Like for the most part, it's always like the oldest of all people, right? I feel like the average is probably like 70. But back in the day, they would just like not care and just get someone super young. And obviously, a lot of the time, someone was like super young like that, they would still have like some kind of a big assistant guy, like a regent or something, I think. But it's kind of crazy how that used to be so normal, right? Like you would think in this situation, like, you know, I understand it's part of the tradition, like you want someone with the blood of this person, so whatever if they're 12, but wouldn't it be better to just get someone competent who's like, you know, older and has already proved themselves to rule the country? I don't know. Because like, you're just getting some 12-year-old kid and hoping that he's gonna be a good ruler just because of his blood. I know that, you know, blood was much more important back in the day, but it always shocks me, you know? Because again, like, I don't actually think people of the ancient world were stupid, right? Obviously not. And yet, you know, like in a case like this, like, just get someone competent, not a 12-year-old. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's gonna say that this worked out, but, you know, it's more luck than it worked out. Like, they have no reason to know that this kid would actually be any good.
A throne. Rival claimants and power-hungry nobles felt this was a wrong decision. After all, Nandivarman II was a foreigner. To quell this concern, Nandivarman II and his supporters made efforts to highlight his true Pallava heritage. But here's some food for thought. What made his background true is that he was of mixed Indian and Southeast Asian ancestry, just like the original pairing that founded the Pallava dynasty. Nandivarman II would grow to become an extremely successful king. He was perhaps the greatest of the Pallavas, presiding over an empire at its apex.
I mean, it works sometime again. Like, Alexander the Great was like, what, 60 or something when he inherited the kingdom? What's his name? The king from the north of Sweden? Augustus something. Like, he was also like insanely young and yet wildly successful, you know. It happens, but still, like, most of the time, if you put like a teen on the throne, that's a terrible idea.
An economic and cultural golden age. And all this he accomplished as a foreigner. Nandivarman's foreign origins seem to have ensured his continued interest in Eastern affairs. For example, inscriptions written on his behalf have been found in northern Malaysia, in the kingdom of Kedah. Interestingly, this kingdom is located in the Bujang Valley, which roughly translates to Valley of the Serpents. And in Sanskrit, the term Bujang is a synonym of the term Naga. Very curious indeed. Nandivarman II is, like Kondinya and other pioneers before him, a symbol of Indianization and the deep connection between India and Southeast Asia. Only today, after 6 centuries of Chinese, Arab, and European influence, has the contribution of India been neglected. And now you know.
I mean, fair enough. I know. Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. I didn't know it, now I know. That is true. That is very true. Very interesting. Okay. Well, always some good stuff on the compass. I don't really know what to comment on. It's just, yeah, you know, peaceful. Like, colonization is not the right word, but I can't find like a synonym. Like, peaceful exchange of knowledge and advancement of, you know, civilization is kind of nice. Yeah, that's what I can say. Good video. Good video. What do we watch next? We could watch those two. They're pretty short. Let's do it. Right here. Here we go. So this one is Touge Race, Civic EF3 versus Ace 86, Insane Speed. Let's go, by Mr. Racing Channel 12 years ago. Alright. Is this like from an 80s tape, or is this recent? Wow. The pure darkness too, I mean. The gutter technique a little bit. Not really drifting around it. It's more like an actual race. Right, how absolutely dark it is. Big slowdown. to the real world. That's always what I thought, like, with stuff like this, I was saying, if it's anime or something, there's never like any car coming up, huh? And in real life, I'm sure they have like spotters, right? But even then, what it takes is one car passing by, the racer's not knowing, and there's a crash. Hello, John. What, the sparks coming out there? Is the bottom of the car touching the ground? I don't know where there were sparks. Sparks again, yeah. Must have a very low chassis, I guess. Scary stuff, especially when Takumi is in front of you. Wow. It's terrifying, like seriously. I would shit myself as a passenger. And as a driver, I would not press the accelerator. I just let the car go downhill with momentum, slowly. Alright. I know it's cool. That was cool. I don't know if again this is like really old school stuff from the 80s or 90s, but that was cool. Obviously, you know, anytime you see an A86, it's pretty cool. Okay. Well, nice one. Nice one. Not enough drifting though. I can say that. Next we have voicing over the dumbest TikTok comments by Beep. Okay, let's watch this.
You are not a brony. You are a Pegasus.
I'll beg your sister.
I thought taxidermy was not paying taxes. No, that's tax evasion.
What?
What's the movie name? Oh, it's Ready or Not. Ready. Hi, just wondering how your quality is so good. Wink. Blushes and winks back with my head slowly turning. The apps used for the quality is called Wink.
Damn, that's the last thing. I remember like when I was on Facebook in 2012 to maybe 15, there was a lot of people who would talk like this, like the constant, you know, describing your action in your comments and your message and your chat, like wink, blush, turn around, scared, you know, like, you know, there was a lot of people talking like that back then. It was pretty cringe.
The egg theory.
The annoying bitch theory.
How do you shift? No, like work. Like a job.
What?
Wasn't Freddie Mercury like a serial killer? What? Oh, wait, Freddy Fazbear is who I'm thinking of. Sorry. Girl, spoiler warning. Naruto came out in like 2007. He never came out. Y'all weird.
Are you stupid? They meant Naruto the anime, not Naruto himself.
Is there a word in between yes and no? Maybe. Okay, well, what is it then?
That's a good one, huh?
So, topologically speaking, they aren't holes. Lobotomically speaking, can you explain the joke? I'm slow. Say thank you in Spanish. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Crying.
Does getting a tattoo hurt? It depends on the area. I'm from California. Bro, what's the song name? Call out my name. Jolene.
Please, what's the game name?
You don't want to see me infuriated. I'm sorry. The amount of people not knowing the difference between deodorant and antidepressant is ridiculous. You mean antiperspirant?
You made that up.
Yeah, they already confirmed Season 5 is the last season. But they confirmed that Season 5 is the end. That's literally what I said! I'm from Scotland, and we definitely don't speak like that.
I'm from Scotland, and we definitely don't speak like that.
Why are you clapping in a church?
Why?
The Lord is not about sitting.
Matthew 3:19, thou shalt not clap.
What is an incubus? A male succubus. If you don't know what a succubus is, just giggle it.
Incubus aren't as popular though.
My wallet is always in my pocket. I cannot imagine leaving my horse without it. Your horse without it? NAF because it stands for the start of the characters' names. F for Freddy. Never mind.
Yes, frying me, yo.
You funny Ash. My name isn't Ash.
The funniest thing is, my best friend's name is Ash.
That's not the funniest thing. My legs are 90% scars and it's nothing to
Okay.
joke about.
LOL, same with my armpits because I won't stop picking the hairs out with my teeth.
What?
What? I wonder how they feel about a certain date in September. Starting with a 9. If it's in September, it's gonna start with a 9.
That shouldn't be like,
Why did you remind me of my childhood trauma?
the hell kind of childhood did you have? Salcon is so funny. I love him.
I prefer Suckon. Who's Suckon?
Suck on these nuts!
I knew
Is
this
that
one.
a show or a fandom?
I feel like someone has done that to me in the chat some years ago. Yeah.
Bro, what's the Constitution? I used to do this online trend where you cover one eye and stare into the sun. Now the vision in one of my eyes has slightly different color, and I developed anisotropia.
That was
What?
never a trend, bro. That was all you. Even if it's not real, what a great and creative horror video.
It'd be real.
It be not.
Be the night guard!
The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
No, I am.
No, it's the powerhouse of the cell. You gotta say it with power!
I am the powerhouse of the sun!
I don't get why people are so negative about other people's actions or appearances. Humans have a natural drive to be judgmental. Where's the natural drive to shut the fuck up? What if Kat dies and you never find her? What if you died and you were never found? Call Fix It Felix? Fix It Felix is in America. I'm in Puerto Rico.
Repararit Felix!
Are they lovers?
Okay.
What?
Okay. Well, you know, you guys and me have different comedy. It is what it is. It'll be like that sometime with some of the stuff you guys share. I mean, comedy is very subjective, so if you enjoy it, good for you. I think that's the kindest thing I can say, yeah. If you had fun watching this, good for you. Alright, here's the link. Let's move on. What do we watch next? We could watch... how about a music video? We need a palate cleanser after this, I feel like. How Beethoven defeated his rivals in piano duels. Duels, huh? By Piano Curio.
21-year-old Beethoven arrived in Vienna as an unknown musician amid a sea of professionals. But what he lacked in experience, he made up for in one special talent, a rare gift for improvisation. And there was only one arena where this prized ability could make or break an artist's reputation for good: the piano duel.
I never knew that was a thing.
These musical showdowns played out like gladiator matches between leading virtuosos. First, the competitors played prepared works, showcasing the finer points of their technique. Then came sight-reading challenges, each pianist trying to stump the other with difficult scores. And finally, the most crucial round of all, improvisations on a given theme, with the winner crowned by applause. The victor gained not only in public reputation, but often received gifts and the support of wealthy patrons, something vital for a rising composer like Beethoven. The most prized pianists were those who could truly improvise, transforming any given theme into dazzling variations on the spot. This was Beethoven's specialty. Whereas lesser pianists might add superficial glosses on top of a theme, Beethoven would deconstruct it entirely, reassembling its pieces in imaginative ways.
Not that I can tell, but it sounds great.
He loved to create expressive adagios with singing lines sustained by the pedal, contrasting with the dry, pearly style of most pianists.
It always feels weird when, you have a way slower song from a master like Beethoven, where, I tend to think of ultra speed as kind of like their style, that they kind of like a Beethoven guitar player who complains that they cannot play a slow song. They have to constantly be super fast.
Another of Beethoven's favorite tricks was to prolong an obvious cadence by taking unexpected detours. Sometimes he would do this for several minutes, even in the middle of a chamber work or concerto, to the dismay of his collaborators and the delight of his audiences.
It's beautiful, very relaxing as well.
To really impress a crowd, a good improviser like Beethoven would present a fugued variation, beginning with imitative entries that often spun out after a few bars. The rarer act of improvising a full fugue was the ultimate display of mastery. These were the primary weapons in Beethoven's arsenal, and to start building his reputation in Vienna, he needed a good challenger. In early 1793, he got one. One day, Karl Czerny's father ran into his friend Józef Galinek on the street. Galinek was a reputable pianist who specialized in variations like this one, often emphasizing speed over expression. Galinek told Czerny he was on his way to a piano duel with an inexperienced newcomer and boasted that he would give him a real taste of Viennese pianism.
Why is this literally an anime plot? Underestimate the chosen one main character with their special talent. Haha, you will never win, Yugi. But you have my trump card.
When Galinek met Czerny again the next day, his confidence was shattered. Yesterday was the day I'll remember, he said. I gave that young man a theme to improvise on, and I've never even heard Mozart play so admirably. He manages difficulties and effects at the keyboard never even dreamed of. This was Galinek's first encounter with Beethoven. He wasn't just impressed, he felt threatened. Fearing for his prized reputation, he reportedly rented apartments near Beethoven's where he could overhear him practicing and composing. Beethoven soon realized that his original ideas were being stolen, and it was only a matter of time before they would appear in print, passed off as Galinek's own.
Okay, actually they didn't become friends, yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Rent an apartment so you can just listening and steal his ideas. That's so bitter and petty.
So Beethoven fought back by publishing a set of variations for violin and piano with an unusually difficult coda, featuring extended trills entwined with a melodic line, even though that line was already doubled in the violin part.
Wow.
This was a deliberate choice, not only to publicly claim the special effect as his own invention, but to catch pianists like Jelinek off guard at musical gatherings where the piece would be read at sight. Upon reaching this unique passage, Jelinek would inevitably
reading the letter I fantasized in the evening, I wrote down many of my peculiarities the next day and boasted about them. Because I foresaw that such things would soon appear, I decided to go ahead of them. There was another version, namely to embarrass the local piano masters, many of whom are my sworn enemies. I wanted to take revenge on them in this way, because I knew in advance that they would be presented in the variation year and year, where the gentlemen would make themselves look bad. Damn, he wanted to embarrass his sworn enemies. Wow. Wow.
Stumble and embarrass himself. The tactic must have worked. This device eventually became one of Beethoven's specialties as Jelinek's name faded into history.
Oof. End of episode 1 of the
2 years
animation.
later, in 1796, Beethoven claimed an even bolder victory. He spent the summer near Berlin at the Prussian court, hoping to make some good money from its music-loving king, Frederick William II. But to do that, he had to go up against the incumbent court pianist and composer, Friedrich Himmel. Himmel was a local favorite who focused more on operatic and choral compositions, but he made an early career splash as a piano virtuoso. However, it seems that Himmel didn't put a lot of effort into his pianistic craft after winning his court job. Described by an acquaintance as a dissolute eccentric who lived perpetually between a state of drunk on champagne and cheerless sobriety, Himmel was likely unprepared for the arrival of an ambitious rising talent like
Cheerless sobriety. I mean, is it a piano duel or is it just Beethoven smurfing? I'm sorry, but it's just smurfing and dunking on the noobs. You know, it's not very fair.
After meeting, the two pianists agreed to improvise for one another, with Beethoven going first. Then Himmel took his turn and began to work up momentum, only Beethoven suddenly cut him off. "Well, when are you going to start?" he asked. Apparently, Beethoven thought Himmel was just warming up and impatiently demanded the real improvisation. After this awkward exchange, Beethoven improvised for the king, who was so impressed that he awarded him a job, presumably the one already occupied by Himmel. But Beethoven declined. He couldn't stand the sentimental Berlin audiences who reacted to his improvisations with sobs instead of applause. And so, having outplayed the local star pianist, insulting him mid-performance, winning and refusing his job, Beethoven left with a gold-filled casket from the king and a reputation that continued to grow.
Wow. He's just farming the noobs.
This type of dominance became his calling card, and just a few years later, he would outdo even this feat with one more legendary duel. Daniel Steibold's modern reputation is unfairly one-sided. Remembered today mostly as a foil to Beethoven, he was once a popular composer who pioneered novel effects and excelled in lighter genres. His fame and talent was great enough to pose a legitimate threat to Beethoven, who didn't hesitate to defend his home turf when Steibold visited Vienna in 1800. Steibold had a particular gift for patron posturing. He gained early attention with a 1790 sonata dedicated to Marie Antoinette. After the Queen's execution, he skillfully flattered the new regime by writing a new sonata for Madame Bonaparte.
Really? Wow. Did he just try to erase the fact that he had made a song for Marie Antoinette before that? Interesting. Madame Bonaparte.
in 1800, only months after Napoleon seized power. This made him dangerous in a duel environment with wealthy elites, whose favor he was all too adept at winning.
So yeah, I guess that's what I was thinking earlier, like, you know, who is judging in a piano duel? Because I assume most people, you know, in the audience, like, you judge what you like, but you don't have the, you're not like an expert in piano technique to really judge what's the better played piece or something. It's more like what sounds better to you. But then I guess on top of it, there's also like all of the, you know, other thing that people will consider, you know, like, I like this guy because he's from this country, or I like this guy because, you know, he's not a peasant or something, you know. That was probably how people judged it.
As a pianist, Steibold had a flashy technique, but lacked the all-important skill of improvisation. His signature effect was the tremolo, a new technique he introduced as early as 1795. By rapidly alternating between two notes in each hand, Steibold could adapt almost any theme into a four-part texture, while swelling the dynamics like an organ. These tremolo sections developed slowly and simply, helping mask Steibold's limited improv ability. When Steibold made his way to Vienna in 1800, he remained unaware he was about to face the pianist whose very strength was everything he had learned to fake.
Well. Moritz von Fries.
Their first encounter took place in the luxurious palace of the Count von Fries. First, Beethoven played his modest clarinet trio and only received some half-meant compliments from his opponent. Steibold then played a piano quintet followed by an improvised fantasy, being sure to unveil his signature tremolos. The tactic worked, the crowd was delighted, and Beethoven refused to play again that evening. But why didn't Beethoven immediately respond? His motivation could have been strategic. Steibold had already shown his cards and won over the...
I'm guessing it's gonna be, knowing what we've heard from him so far, is gonna be like, he thought that guy was way too embarrassing and weak, so he didn't even want to respond, you know, like, you are too much beneath me for me to respond.
The audience. Beethoven might have been content to sit back and observe the limits of Steibold's playing, undoubtedly noticing the thinness of his improvisations.
Or maybe he went on to write another like crazier piece to destroy him.
So the two parted ways and agreed to meet again the next week. For the second encounter, Steibold went first, presenting another piano quintet and a clearly planned fantasy on a theme from Beethoven's clarinet trio. This was an escalation, and the provoked Beethoven now had full license to humble his challenger. He made a show of picking up a cello part from Steibold's quintet, placed it upside down on the music rack, and produced a stunning improvisation on a randomly selected theme.
Upside down? That's fun.
This became the most storied improvisation of Beethoven's career. He likely used every weapon in his arsenal, from singing adagios to rapid toccata variations. For scholar Tom Begin, Beethoven's choice of a cello part might have been a calculated stunt, as the bass line was more likely to yield good material for a fugued variation, something he knew Steibold was incapable of doing.
Alright then.
In fact, it's entirely possible that Beethoven had thought of this move days in advance. He had a week to prepare for his second encounter with Steibelt, who had escaped the first round as the audience favorite. Perhaps Beethoven anticipated that Steibelt would prepare an improvisation and came up with a perfect way to prove the authenticity of his own by brandishing a seemingly random, inverted cello part. Like a skilled magician, Beethoven could have set up all the variables beforehand, testing out baseline improvisations for several days until he had worked out all the possibilities that a conventional cello line like Steibelt's might yield. Premeditated or not,
I'm definitely lost with the technical jargon as always, but I understand this is pretty cool. That's the gist of it.
ingenious move worked. Steibelt left the room before Beethoven had finished playing and even avoided him for the rest of his life, another 23 years. As late as 1825, 2 years after Steibelt's death, Beethoven's conversation books show his friends still talking about his famous triumph a quarter century earlier. The story remains one of the most popular Beethoven anecdotes. People often view Beethoven as this towering demigod who passively cruised to fame on natural talent alone. But these stories reveal someone more realistic, a shrewd musician who methodically engaged in high-profile duels to earn his reputation even at the expense of others. He detected the schemes of Gelinek and employed countermeasures to make him stumble. He could have
But, you know, like, beyond the joke, did he actually smurf? I mean, it does sound like he didn't really duel the best of the best. I mean, I'm sure there was like crazier names and talent, right, at this time, no?
cashed in on Himmel's job at the Prussian court, but declined to instead build his reputation in the public eye. As for the Steibelt duel, he waited until his opponent had run out of tricks, then went for the takedown with a showy stunt that could not be matched. Though Beethoven's deafness forced an early end to his performing career by 1811, he did accomplish one enduring feat in this last duel. For better or worse, very few have taken Steibelt seriously for over 200 years, making Beethoven's improvisation the world's most devastating diss track.
I guess. The creatures of Prometheus. Joseph Wolf. So you made a friend, I see. Alright, well, I'm really enjoying this kind of videos. Oh, you know, like, a lot of those players of this last seem like they were quite the characters, you know? Quite the characters. Like, grander than life type of characters, yeah. I mean, everybody in this era was, I guess, you know, the Napoleon, the Alexander of Russia, etc., etc. You know, this was an era of grand characters. That's for sure. Very interesting video. Okay, well, all I can say is that this is some crazy stuff. The piano dueling, the crushing of the opponent. Yeah, it's something. Yeah. Alright. How about we watch a baseball video next? We haven't watched... Well, yeah, we haven't watched the Baseball Doesn't Exist video in a little bit, and they haven't posted in more than a bit, because they were sued, I think. This is the most exciting tournament in sports, the World Baseball Classic.
3 years ago, a matchup between Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani in the championship became the most watched World Baseball Classic game in history. This year, that record was broken.
I think he changed mic, no?
By a Team USA game in pool play. The Emperor of Japan was there. Cardi B watched. Timothy Chalamet, Bad Bunny were there. Kevin Durant tweeted about it. Mia Khalifa tweeted about it. Even Palestine tweeted about it. They watched a 17-year-old face the best players in the history of the planet. An electrician throwing 79 miles per hour had the best pitching performance of the tournament. Teams fought each other in the dugout. This entire team cried. This fan cried. This broadcaster cried. This manager cried. This newscaster cried.
I didn't cry.
Cried. Ronald Acuna Jr. cried.
Not yet.
And this man almost killed a man trying to buy a remote to watch a game. A country became convinced that somebody had sold inside information to another team, resulting in a terrible loss. A player told his teammate he could f*** off after an American refused to shake a Mexican's hand for the second year in a row. The 2026 World Baseball Classic set an attendance record before pool play even ended. TV viewership...
So it's a world tournament? I did not even know there was a world tournament. I had this impression that baseball was like, you know, limited to countries, right? Where they have their own tournaments. But I didn't know there was a world tournament.
In America was up 183%. Yet the American team itself was on the brink of the most embarrassing performance in the history of the World Baseball Classic.
The World Cup of Baseball.
And it blew up in his face.
All right.
He got caught with his pants down. Now he's trying to lie about it.
Baseball was invented by Americans. The World Baseball Classic was a tournament invented by America. Yet, throughout its history, America has taken the tournament with the least amount of seriousness. However, it was actually Japan who almost stopped this tournament from happening in the first place. MLB originally tried to create the World Baseball Classic in 2004 to expand their global reach. Japan agreed to the terms, but at
So it is recent, only 20 years old, okay.
the very last minute, backed out. Upset that MLB was set to make a majority of the profits, Japan thought they were making way less than they were worth. They called it a money grab, said it reeked of imperialism, and backed out, nearly stopping the tournament before it started. But eventually, an agreement was reached, and in 2006, Ichiro said he wanted to beat Korea so bad they wouldn't be able to compete with Japan for another 30 years. Some believing Ichiro was alluding to Japan's 35-year occupation of Korea starting in 1910. He had set...
That is one of the comments. I mean, once again, you're saying American imperialism, and then you're talking about like destroying Korea for 30 years, which, you know, Japan imperialism did. Well, more than 30 years actually.
Earlier that Korea smelled like garlic. Korea drilled Ichiro with a pitch, upset them 2 times, planted a Korean flag on their mound as Ichiro looked on in complete and utter anger. These games are personal, intense. Japan ended up getting revenge and winning the tournament in games watched by up to 60 million people, more than any World Series in history. After nearly stopping the tournament altogether.
Oh man, kind of a tangent, but I don't know if you guys saw, I mean, I'm sure no one's surprised, but, you know, Trump keeps saying the dumbest fucking thing, and he was meeting the Prime Minister of Japan, and he said something about, like, you know, like, I think he said something about, you know, the whole thing with attacking Iran was, like, sneaky, and he replied by saying, like, you know, well, Japan was sneaky with Pearl Harbor, you know. This fucking guy. It's like, you know, every time I think I've seen the worst that this guy can do, it does something worse.
The WBC was arguably the most important sporting event in the country's entire history. 17 years later, the 2023 World Baseball Classic brought an estimated $426 million in economic impact to Japan in 2 weeks. The week of the tournament saw the most Japanese tourism since pre-pandemic. According to Japan's economic index, the country saw the first improvement in 4 months, marked by, quote, tourism and other factors. The World Baseball Classic literally changed the trajectory of the entire Japanese economy. This year, a win would bring an estimated $582 million in economic impact. A tournament they nearly vetoed themselves before it even started. America's first appearance.
Yeah, but I'm guessing back then it made sense. The term was terrible, yeah.
wasn't as successful. They lost to Canada in a mostly empty stadium with 17,000 fans. The tournament didn't catch on in the States. In 2009, they finished 4th. In 2013, they finished 6th. But in 2017, they pulled off one of the most electric performances in the tournament. More MLB stars participated for America than ever in 2023, yet still, out of the top 13 American pitchers based on ERA, none of them decided to participate in 2023. But this year, with Paul Skeens, Logan Webb, and Tarek Skubal, the USA had a stacked rotation and a loaded lineup. The roster had a combined 612 WAR, 200 more WAR than the second best team in the tournament.
Wow.
Then, they lost to Italy, a team whose lineup was nearly half minor leaguers. Before the tournament, MLB star pitcher Tarek Skubal announced he would only make one start in the WBC, then go back to spring training, trying to avoid injury. The next week, Bryce Harper lobbied for MLB to allow players in the Olympics, saying, quote, "The WBC is great, but it's not the Olympics."
I didn't even know there was baseball in the Olympics. Man, I really don't know those things. Maybe there was, but man, I didn't see anyone talk about it. I mean, there was the Winter Olympics recently. I guess there wouldn't be baseball in that one. But yeah.
Fans reacted negatively, saying Team USA's star doesn't even care about the tournament. In Game 1, they faced Brazil, a team with a 24-year-old construction worker. He had to get PTO
in 2028,
to play
I
in
see.
this tournament, then went
I see.
0-11. They also had a 17-year-old on the roster. Born in 2008, he is a senior in high school. He gives up a double, then has to face Bobby Witt Jr., Bryce Harper, and Aaron Judge. He walks 2 in a row and has to face Aaron Judge with the bases loaded. He is a senior in high school. He jams Judge, gets a double play ball, and ends the inning. USA destroys Brazil, then they destroy Great Britain, and with Paul Skeens on the mound, USA now plays Mexico. To start the game, Randy Arozarena goes for a handshake. Cal Raleigh refuses. These two are teammates in Seattle, and it got people's attention. After the game, when asked, Arozarena said, quote, "What he has to do is f*** off. Go to hell with that fake ass, good to see you. He can shove it right up his ass." These quotes were translated from Spanish. Some say he said it jokingly, but this is the second year in a row a U.S. catcher had refused to shake Randy Rosa's hand. Will Smith, who did it last year, says that Raleigh warned Randy not to shake his hand and did it anyway. Raleigh the next...
This actually really sounds interesting as far as, like, again, from what I've seen at this point, you know, the American MLB way of baseball is so violent, irreverent, you know, like everybody's mad, everybody's fighting. It's kind of crazy, right? So it sounds really interesting to have, you know, like American team versus like Japanese team, which is like, you know, all about, you know, like a lot of you know, being proper, being respectful and all that, right? That sounds pretty funny, like the kind of different country culture clashing each other, yeah, like that. I don't think it's as extreme in the other sports, maybe.
Day says he loves Randy and had reached out to him saying he hates that this is a thing and he's just competitive. But Randy refuses to comment. Later, a clip of Fernando Tatis Jr. and William Contreras shaking hands goes viral. He puts it on his story. His teammate Alex Thomas posts a picture of Raleigh refusing to shake his hand and says it's personal. This confusing beef lingers, but the USA beats Mexico and improved to 3-0. USA's manager then goes on MLB Network and says, "We want to beat Italy, even though we, quote, already punched our ticket." Unbeknownst to him, USA had not advanced yet. If Team USA loses, Italy plays Mexico the next day. If Mexico beats Italy, all three teams would be tied 3-1. The tiebreaker would then be decided by runs allowed. Mark DeRosa decides to rest Cal Raleigh, rest Bryce Harper, rest Alex Bregman, and Bryce Terang. Team's Italy offense has a total WAR of 14.8. Their manager has more career WAR than the entire offense. Team USA gives up 8 runs. Down by 8, every run still counts due to the tiebreaker. David Bednar loads the bases. They have Mason Miller, one of the best closers in the league, in the bullpen. Instead, they warm up Clayton Kershaw, a man who is literally retired. Bednar gets out of the inning, but America loses, and all of a sudden their fate will now be decided by a game between Mexico and Italy. All of a sudden their manager Mark DeRosa is getting hate from all directions. The video of him saying that USA had already advanced goes viral. MLB Network deletes the video, but after more criticism, they are forced to put it back up. Another video of him comes out where he says the team was up late celebrating and drinking after their Mexico win.
It happens all the time. I mean, in the main sport that I watch, the UFC, it's always one of the worst signs when leading up to a fight. A fighter is already talking about, his next opponent after this fight that's coming up. It's always like that when a team or a fighter is like overlooking the next opponent. Usually it doesn't end well, Yeah. It's a classic.
The day before the Italy game, and that a lot of guys were, quote, dragging. In Asia, a manager would never say this. In fact, last tournament, 3 players were sentenced to community service for doing something very similar. But before we get to that, a quick word from today's sponsor. Opening day is coming up, and I cannot wait. At cheap point, just use subscription X set of tickets. If you love games, love sports in Japan, 3 Korean players were spotted at a bar in Tokyo. This became such a big scandal, the professional league did an investigation, got written statements from every single player on the team.
See, this is what I mean, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's especially a good thing. Japan, Korea, and, some Asian country can be way too extreme with rules, right? Obviously, there's a balance, but it's such a contrast to, the MLB side of the players, right? They fight each other, they fight the umpire, and, doesn't seem like much happen, right? And then on this side, it's 3 guys went to drink rather than train, and, suddenly they're massive investigation and all that. It's kind of crazy, the difference in culture.
After the investigation, 2 of the players were fined 3 million won and were forced to complete 40 hours of community service. The other was fined 500 won, forced to do 80 hours of community service, and was taken off the All-Star team. Korea couldn't make it out of pool play for the 3rd tournament in a row. One publication called them the Ugly Duckling national team, described the team as a humiliation. The country's response was so harsh, the Korean baseball organization issued an apology to the entire country. It was such an embarrassment, they created a literal task force, hired a full-time manager and coach to be in charge of the national team year-round, started making their players play in exhibition games even when the WBC wasn't happening, and practice as a team a month before the WBC.
I mean, I'm laughing, but, countries take sport very seriously. It's always been a thing, right? The Nazi Olympic from 1936, was it? Was the same thing, right? Hitler really wanted to show Germany being so great by winning so many events or something. And, while things aren't as crazy today, it's all countries feels like that, right? It depends on which sport, not every sport matter, right? But, in the big sport, especially the one that have some kind of World Cup or something, yeah, I guess countries are they really take it very seriously, for prestige, I guess. Yeah.
Even starts. They hadn't made it out of pool play in 17 years. They hadn't beat their arch rival Japan in 12 games. And now, a new formidable opponent had entered the conversation. Taiwan is the fastest growing baseball league in the world. They have a live band with 8 trumpets, 4 trombone players, 2 saxophonists, and cheerleaders relentlessly dancing the entire game. After beating Japan and winning the premier tournament, what was described as the biggest upset in international baseball history, the top 20 Google searches in the country were about baseball. 100,000 championship t-shirts were sold in 2 days. Companies in the country literally gave their employees the next day off to celebrate. The government honored the team by dispatching 4 fighter jets to escort the team back to the country. When they landed, the vice president was there to greet them. Baseball in Taiwan have been in an unprecedented decline. After multiple gambling scandals ravaged the league, attendance went from 1.6 million to only 583,000 in 2 decades. Their attendance was 1/3 of what it was at their peak. But when they hosted pool play in the 2023 tournament, viewership was up 151%. This, along with their national team success in Little League and the Premier 12, has helped them go from 6,000 fans a game in 2023 to 10,000 fans a game in 2025.
That's
the
nice.
professional league's ticket sale revenue increased 3.5 times in just 2 seasons. The last tournament opened with a game between Korea and Australia. 15,000 fans came. Taiwan's first game was against Australia this year. 40,000 fans came. Over 30 buses of Taiwanese fans arrived at the Tokyo Dome. A man in Taiwan went viral after he crashed into a motorist, admitted that he didn't have a license, even though he was a cab driver, had over 100 tickets, and hit the man because he was rushing so he could get a remote in time to watch the game. The country lit up the Taipei 101 in honor of the team. 4,000 Taiwanese flags were passed out to fans, who relentlessly cheered the entire game, but they lost. Their star, Chen Jie-xian, got hit in the hand and fractured his finger. Taiwanese fans were so upset. The pitcher got so many mean comments and threats, he had to make his account private. Chen had to make a statement to get fans to stop bullying him. During the game, a man in Taiwan claimed he was the former Taiwanese strength coach and had sold intelligence to Australia in order to defeat Taiwan. People became convinced the team had a double agent. This became such a big deal, the Ministry of Sports and the National Taxation Bureau began an investigation. The sports department makes a statement saying this man is a fraud and never worked for the team. The man got so much backlash, he deleted the post, apologized, said it was a joke, and deleted his account. The Taiwanese fans were so passionate in their game against Japan, 40% of the crowd was Taiwanese, even though the game was in Japan. But in the second inning, Shohei Ohtani showed up.
Well, it's over then. The true main character of baseball showed up. I mean, that's a bit unfortunate, yeah. I guess Korea or Taiwan's losing streak is not ending against Japan. Maybe next generation, you don't know.
Slam got 84,000 likes in 33 minutes. 2 weeks later, it is sitting at 29 million views on Twitter alone. Japan's offense explodes on Taiwan. Taiwan gets one hit and lose 13-0. Taiwan's disappointment ends with a convincing win over Czech Republic. And all of a sudden, they face Korea with their tournament on the line.
Man, even the Czech Republic as a team. I don't even know if we have a baseball team in France, to be honest. Never heard about any baseball in France, like genuinely. We likely do, but I assume it's not very good. I don't think we're good at baseball. Probably not.
Arguably the best Korean pitcher in history, Hyun-Jin Ryu, starts. In the second, he faces Yu Chang.
Belted to left, Yu Chang, legend!
Taiwan takes the early lead, but then Korea ties it in the 5th. However, minutes later,
Racing back Lee at the wall.
Korea is now staring another disappointment in the face. Another elimination would cause outrage back home. Do Young Kim knows that.
For Korea, Do Young Kim in the air to deep left field and watches it go.
He launches one, launches his bat, and gives Korea a 2-1 lead in the 7th. Taiwan's down to their last 9 outs. They get the leadoff man on, but then ground into a double play. They get the leadoff man again. This time, Stuart Fairchild comes up to the plate. He's played on 5 MLB teams in 5 seasons. He's a perennial bench player who is mostly anonymous in America. But his mom is Taiwanese. They recruit him to the team, and he has the country's hopes and dreams in his hands. And with 2 outs in the 8th...
Nice.
Taiwan takes the lead on the back of Stuart Fairchild. Him joining Taiwan and hitting this home run has resulted in him gaining 285,000 followers in 2 weeks. He has 6 times more followers now than he did before the tournament. A guy who was designated for assignment 6 times. A guy who was designated for assignment 3 times in the past year alone just got 114,000 likes on an Instagram post promoting a Taiwanese coffee brand. In just 4 games, Stuart Fairchild has become a celebrity in Taiwan.
I love the underdog story.
Isn't over yet. Do Young Kim, who had gave the Koreans a lead earlier, comes back up and drives one. Hyun Kim of the Dodgers scores from first. In extras, Taiwan turns to small ball. They put Shi Chen in at second base. He fractured his finger 3 days before. On a bunt, he slides headfirst in the 3rd and is safe. He scores.
You are still playing even 3 days after fracturing a finger? Damn.
On another bunt. They now just need 3 outs to win. With a runner on third, this is Korea's best chance.
Things 1-1. Rolled to first. Runner's coming home. So is the throw.
The next batter flies out, and for the first time ever, Taiwan beats Korea in the World Baseball Classic. The entire team goes onto the field and is in tears. Reporters are in tears. Fans are in tears. These two teams played each other in the exact same stadium in the 2009 WBC. 13,000 fans were in attendance. This year, there were 40,000 fans in attendance. Taiwan came out and took a bow to all of them. This result meant a game between Australia and Korea would decide who got out of the pool. Australia, likely the most underrated team in the tournament, has seen a 22% increase in baseball participation in the last year alone. They had the #1 overall draft pick who was born and raised in Australia and were 1 run from upsetting Japan. If Korea wants to avoid another embarrassment, they not only have to beat them, they have to beat them by 5 or more runs. Australia is 2 outs away from moving on, and they get a perfect double play ball.
Hooley, ground ball off the glove of O'Loughlin. Dale.
Okay.
Korea scores on the very next pitch, take a 5-run lead into the 9th, and move on past their pool for the first time in 17 years. Their manager cried and said today was the game of my life. Their broadcaster cried in the booth. They move on with Japan, who storms through pool play undefeated. With stars like Seiya Suzuki, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and Shohei Ohtani, they look unbeatable. But other teams aren't as lucky. They don't have their stars, like Puerto Rico, who at one point threatened to quit the tournament altogether. 4 of their best players were denied insurance, deemed too likely to get injured, and were unable to play. Carlos Correa is out. Francisco Lindor is
Too likely to get injured? What?
out. Jose
How do you even determine that someone is too likely to be injured? I guess if they have the record of getting injured often before, but okay.
Barrios is out, and Victor Carantini is out. So was Mike Trout, Jose Altuve, Miguel Rojas, and Jose Alvarado, who told the media, quote, "The insurance is a piece of shit. They do such a shitty thing to you. It's a piece of shit." Miguel Rojas asked out loud why it seemed like it was only the Latin guys getting denied. In total, at least 9 Puerto Rican players were deemed ineligible because of insurance.
That sounds weird.
The manager said withdrawing from the tournament altogether was on the table. Even Puerto Rican star Bad Bunny offered to pay the insurance for the players, which would allow Francisco Lindor and Carlos Correa to play. But concerns that the insurance company used was not trustworthy enough, it was denied. To make matters worse for Puerto Rico, Javi Baez tested positive for marijuana and would be suspended for the tournament. With 170 wins above replacement off their roster, Puerto Rico looked completely depleted. They're losing to Panama, a team that has only won 2 World Baseball Classic games in history.
And I'm sorry, but are you really losing? Like, if they're refusing all of your best players to come for like bullshit reason, you know, losing doesn't mean much because you didn't have your best players because of some bullshit rules, I guess. I don't know.
And can only score 1 run all game, but they tie it in the 9th. In the 10th, a guy named Darrell Hernandez comes up. He's not even supposed to be on the team. It took 2 players to get their insurance denied and another injury just for him to make the roster. He has a negative career WAR.
But he's gonna put it off. It's his moment. This is the kind of chance that most people don't get.
Only 3 career home runs, but with 2 strikes and 2 outs.
And the 1-2 crushed
Yep.
left field line deep.
Rise up to the moment.
It's a walk-off home run. And after the game, the entire team stays on the field and sings Mark Anthony to a sold-out crowd as players and fans are in tears. The craziest fan atmosphere, however, was in Miami, a pool with Venezuela and the Dominican Republic. Combined, these 2 countries have 163 MLB players. Combined, they have about the population of California, yet they make up around 17% of the league. In 1990, all foreign players combined made up just 14% of the league. This massive influx of international talent is fueled in large part by Latin America. Now, 36% of Latinos in the U.S. consider themselves MLB fans, more than any other demographic in the country. Their passion is unmatched. Last Classic, according to a report, 3 players threatened to leave the team because of issues in the clubhouse. Another report says that Rafael Devers was left off the team because he caused issues in 2023. Manager Albert Pujols says he called Devers to join this year, but did not get a response. Last year, going into the tournament, people called this the greatest lineup ever assembled. They couldn't even make it out of pool play. But this year, the lineup looks even better. They hit 3 home runs in a row. This is the reaction in an exhibition game. Every single one of their games in Miami is a sellout. They hit 3 home runs in Mercy Rule, Nicaragua. They played the Netherlands. Vladdy hits a bomb, puts on a jacket, and takes a selfie with a weight with plantains on it. Junior Caminero gets hit by a pitch. He looks hurt. Turns out, he is not hurt. They mercy rule the Netherlands too. They beat Israel 10-1. Their only competition is Venezuela. In this game, they hit 3 bombs, including one of the deadliest bat flips ever seen. Before the tournament, Juan Soto said they were going to have fun. Fernando Tatis said they were going to be loud. The team is stacked. They have Manny Machado, Vladdy Jr., Juan Soto, Ketel Marte, and even Austin Wells, who apparently has 2 Dominican grandparents.
Gloria Dio. Gloria Morisañando.
By the end of the pool, they scored the most runs, had the highest average, the highest on base percentage, had the highest slugging percentage, the highest OPS, and broke the record with 13 home runs in pool play. They hit 13 home runs in 4 games. The Dominican is now favorited to win the tournament, and the former favorite might not even make it out of the pool. Mark DeRosa's comments has much of the baseball world calling for him to be fired. However, he later says he was well aware by the time the game started that the USA had not advanced. More info comes out that because of rules set by players' franchises, Mason Miller was only allowed to pitch 1 inning per game, meaning if he had replaced Bednar with the bases loaded, he wouldn't have been able to pitch the 9th. Bednar was only allowed to pitch 25 pitches. If he would have thrown 1 more pitch, DeRosa would have been forced to take him out of the game. The only other pitcher available was Clayton Kershaw. Similar events happened in last tournament. When USA got blown out by Mexico, they were forced to put in pitcher Ryan Presley, one of their best relievers, instead of saving him for the next game, which was a must-win because his team required him to get an inning of work in during this game. Team USA had to beg teams in the last tournament to change their rules and allow some of their relievers to increase their pitch limits. Other teams don't have to deal with this to the same extent. Pitcher Javier Assad started 2 games for Mexico in pool play alone. Dominican pitcher Sandy Alcantara said he would pitch on short rest for the Dominican Republic. It's not clear whether either of their teams supported those decisions. Teams cannot dictate when or how a pitcher is used. They can influence them by requesting how and when a pitcher is used and pressure them into not pitching at all. That may be why pitchers like Max Fried, Hunter Brown, Kevin Gausman, and Joe Ryan did not pitch for Team USA despite being good enough. It also might be part of the reason Tarek Skubal opted not to pitch a second game for Team USA despite being lined up to pitch in a potential championship. Italy shocks everyone, goes undefeated and beats Mexico, meaning USA gets into the next round where they narrowly beat Canada. Critics say they seem unprepared, undedicated, and boring. Not to mention Team USA's pitchers had allowed more home runs than any other team in the tournament. And now they have to face the Dominican Republic. They're the opposite. They're fun. They scored 51 runs in 5 games, and 4 out of 5 Dominican players previously said they'd rather win the WBC than the World Series. Junior Caminero wanted to be on the team so bad, he said he'd be the bat boy. Instead of preparing for the season and getting at bats in spring training, he wanted to be with the Dominican Republic to sit on the bench. But the absence of Jose Ramirez allows him to get the start. And in the 2nd inning,
Caminero leans out, sends it to left field. It is gone.
a homer off arguably the best pitcher in baseball gives Dominican the lead. But Paul Skeens dials in. Aaron Judge makes an amazing throw. Mow down Tatis. Then Gunnar Henderson comes to the plate.
Gunnar Henderson is whatever the name.
A 21-year-old Roman Anthony follows him. America has the lead, but in one of the loudest environments in WBC history, the Dominican loads the bases. Skeens gets out of it. The next inning, there's 2 men on with 1 out.
Bouncing ball towards the middle. Whip to the bag, off balance,
A double play gets the U.S. out of it. In the 7th, David Bednar has runners on 2nd and 3rd with 1 out, facing the top of the scariest lineup ever. He gets Tatis swinging, and with 2 outs,
Damn.
He strikes out Ketel Marte. The Dominican has 4 chances to tie this game, and the U.S. shuts down the best lineup arguably ever, every single time. USA holds on to a 1-run lead going into
So
the
the USA came
and
back?
puts in Mason Miller. With a runner on third and 2 outs, he just needs 1 more out to send the U.S. to the championship. And on a 3-2 count, the
Well,
United States wins on
alright.
controversial strike 3. Juan Soto says afterwards, quote, "We showed the world we're the best team in baseball." However, they were eliminated, and the United States, after being showered with negativity for a week straight, somehow holds the Dominican Republic to 1 run in one of the most hostile environments possible. With the crowd at their next game,
I mean, they won,
be
they
even
won.
more hostile. In January, the United States captured the president of Venezuela.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like this will be, you know, this is a complicated situation.
The Winter League stopped for 4 days. There were no flights out of the country for 4 weeks. MLB teams scrambled to evacuate their players. Many of those players are playing for Venezuela now. The political turmoil is unavoidable. Fans above the dugout taunted Miguel Cabrera during pool play, accusing him of being a Chavista. He got upset with the fans and had to go back to the clubhouse. Their manager came out pleading with the media to not ask political questions. The team worried any comment made could put friends and family at risk. They believe winning and uniting the country through baseball is their best option. And right now, it's working. Venezuelan games in
It's like on one hand, you know, it's sports and teams represent country, right? So, you know, there's a lot of history. But yeah, it's kind of like you don't want to, well, you want to be proud of whatever country you're representing and rooting for. It doesn't have to be, you know, proud of what the country has done, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you can root for the US team without, you know, that doesn't mean you're rooting for all the fucked up stuff they've done. It's a, you know, sports team. It's not the same thing.
Miami, which has the most dense Venezuelan population in the country, have been the loudest. Their only hiccup was a close loss to the Dominican Republic, forcing them to match up against the defending champs, Japan. They instantly run in to the best player in the sport.
The main character again.
In the third, they tack on 4 more runs. When Mikel Garcia home runs, Venezuela within 1. And all of a sudden, down 1 with runners on the corner, Hiromi Ito, the best pitcher in the Japanese league, has to face Wilder Abreu. Venezuela shocks Japan, and with one swing of the bat, flips the script. They hold Japan scoreless for the rest of the game, and now face Italy for a spot in the finals. Italy is the last undefeated team, and is mostly made up of Italian Americans who are not good enough to play for America. They chug espresso shots every time they hit a home run. Only 2 of the...
I know that's how it works, and it's like that in other sports, right? But I always find it a bit disappointing in like this kind of like country tournament where, you know, like half of the team is actually someone from a different country, but you know, with just like heritage or something. You know what I mean? Like someone from the, like some crazy athlete from the US, but you know, was born in China or something, and then they represent China. You know, like I don't know if it's a controversial take, but you know, like it counts, but it feels like, you know, I just wish like the team of a country was fully people from the country. I don't know, to really see like a real country battle, if that makes sense. But I guess at the same time, it's not such a bad thing. It's a representation of like how diverse and all that the world has gotten, right? Yeah.
Their players in the starting lineup have more than 1 year of MLB experience. If they make the championship, it would be the biggest upset in WBC history. Despite having 40-1 odds to win their pool, they did win their pool. They have 12 home runs in 3 games and strike first against Venezuela. They force a pitching change and score again. In the bottom of the 6th, they have a chance to blow this game open.
Leaning out over the plate.
But they can't. The Venezuelan crowd is trying to wake the team. They get runners on the corner, and Raul Acuna Jr. puts one in play. He ties it. His cousin Michael Garcia is next at the plate.
It's cousin, no?
Then Luisa rises up.
Yeah, this is done.
Venezuela scores 3 in 1 inning, takes the lead, shuts Italy down, and for the first time ever, they are in the championship of the World Baseball Classic. Ronald Acuna Jr. was in the outfield crying the entire 9th inning. When they beat Japan, he chanted, "We ate sushi." When they beat Italy, they chanted, "We ate pizza." And now they're in the finals.
Sounds nice.
And Ronald Acuna Jr., it's already better than anything he had done in MLB, saying he loved the Atlanta Braves, but he was Venezuelan way before he was a Brave. This game is such a big deal in Venezuela that schools and offices close early so people can go home and watch it. Their manager, Omar Lopez, said before the game that he got text messages from 3 organizations asking him not to use their pitchers who he had used the night before. Acuna made a comment on Instagram saying, quote, "We're not playing for those organizations. We're going to launch everything we have." America also has restrictions. According to reports, David Bednar, who had pitched in the last 2 games, was thought to have been deemed unavailable by the Yankees. And due to requests from the Padres, Mason Miller, their closer, would only be able to be used in a save situation. Derek Skubal, who controversially declined a second start, was at the game but was not willing to pitch. Instead, Nolan McLean is pitching.
This all sounds like a mess.
Prospects in baseball with 8 career MLB starts. He's making the biggest start of his life in front of a sold-out crowd dominated by Venezuelan chanting. He gives up 1 in the 3rd on a sac fly. And in the 5th, Wilmer Abreu comes back to the plate.
Off of the bat of Abreu. Wilmer Abreu hits it.
Venezuela starts Eduardo Rodriguez. He had an ERA over 5 the past 2 seasons, but for 4 innings, he shuts down one of the strongest lineups ever, strikes out 4, and only gives up 1 hit. Venezuela ignores requests from organizations. They throw 4 relievers who pitched just 1 night before. USA, who had scored 29 runs in their first 3 games, had scored just 2 runs in the past 19 innings. They only have 1 hit through 5 innings. The captain, Aaron Judge, looks lost and goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. The offense is dead and is down to their last 4 outs. But on a 1-0 count to Bryce Harper.
Whoa. A comeback.
Better late than never. Bryce Harper has tied the championship.
With 1 swing of the bat, the United States is tied. Going into the 9th, they need to hold
Oh, boy.
Venezuela. They're going against the heart of the lineup. Many would expect them to put in their best reliever, but Mason Miller is not in the game. It is not a safe situation, and Mark DeRosa honors the wishes of the Padres and does not pitch him. Instead, Garrett Whitlock comes in and walks the leadoff man. He steals second and is safe by an...
I really don't know like all the details, you know, as always. I know little about baseball even after all those videos we watched. But man, it sounds like there's so much annoying rules here. He keeps talking about like all the people who for that reason or that reason are not allowed to pitch or to bat or to whatever, right? You know, it does kind of sound like this is kind of a mess holding back a lot of the better players from playing. So I don't really see how this is like super fair.
And Eugenio Suarez comes to the plate. And on a 3-2 count,
Into left center field, headed for the gap, and
this double scores the runner from second. Venezuela shuts the United States down in the 9th and win the 2026 World Baseball Classic.
Nice.
Ronald Acuna Jr. falls to his knees. Miguel Cabrera is in tears. The entire team sings the national anthem at the top of their lungs. Despite losing Jose Altuve, Jose Alvarado, and Pablo Lopez to insurance and injury, Venezuela wins it all as tens of thousands watched in town squares in Venezuela. Thousands more hit the streets afterwards in Venezuela, and millions on likely every continent on Earth watched
They needed
it
some
live.
feel-good news, I guess. They definitely needed some feel-good news. Okay, well, again, you know, even without watching the actual tournament, watching a video like this feels very fun. Like, you know, it seemed like it was a really, really epic tournament and like a really memorable one. That's cool, though. That's cool. Yeah. Maybe I should watch it one day. This is really cool. Like at this point with all the baseball stuff we watch, yeah. You know, I kind of want to get into it, but you know, I already do so much stuff and I'm already into so much stuff. It's like, do I have time to get into something else again? You know what I mean? That's always the thing. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm always afraid of like being too obsessed with something new I get into and then, you know, falling out of time with something else. You know, it's always the feeling. So yeah, great video. I really enjoyed this one. I thought that was pretty great. What is this? The Lambda, yeah. I think I'll pass. I think, you know, this is probably gonna show footage of the movie, and movie footage might be bad for the stream. I won't risk it. So yeah, what do we watch next? Let's put this here. I mean, is this a Vivi cosplayer? Kinda cute. What can we watch? I guess we can watch this one and this one, sure. Yeah. So, Filipino teen who speaks 18 languages, Marlon Lamos, 8 years ago. I speak 2 and I'm pretty happy.
I'm Marlon, and I'm 18, and today I'm going to speak in 18 languages.
Tagalog.
Pakilala muna ako sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Marlon Ramos, 18 taong kulang na, at purong Pilipino po ako, at ipinanganak ako dito sa Pilipinas. Dahil dito ako ipinanganak sa Pilipinas, natural lamang na nagsasalita na ako ng Tagalog.
Total demonic satanic on the column. English subs are tweaking out.
Ang wikang Tagalog ay ang ginagamit sa pang-araw-araw kong buhay, at ang pag-aaral ng iba't ibang lingwahe ay aking naging paboritong gawain.
That this would be subtitled, so like, if it's not really subtitled, like, what I can say is cool, but I can't tell what he's saying. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure this is cool, but it's not subtitled, so like, yeah. I think I'll pass. I won't have much to comment on. I mean, if there were subtitles maybe, but yeah. Without subtitles, I really have no idea. Yeah. Sorry, I'll pass because I don't think I have much to comment on. Yeah. So yeah, next we have this one. Someone called Chocolate Cosplay. A Vivi cosplayer wandered around WRC in search of Peko Vivi, and this is what happened. Yuri, let's go. Our face looks absolutely fake. I don't know if it's a filter or like just crazy makeup, but it's crazy how, you know, it looks like character creation in like an MMO. Or maybe it's plastic surgery. Cute though, cute. Getting some Vivi goods. One day I will go to the Expo.
本日はなんとホロライブエキスポ2026にやってきました。私は現在こういった画像や動画を毎日 X に投稿しております。先週2025年のやつを載せたばっかりなんですけれども、今回はですね1週間で編集を終えまして2026年の様子をね皆様にお届けしたいと思います。私はね Day3 しか当たらなかったので今回は1日しか参加できなかったんですけれども、いや今回もね私コスチケット買い忘れたりして譲っていただいたりすごいね波乱万丈。
Maybe I can get some English sub. I mean, I could translate, but I'm lazy.
だったんですけれども、いや皆様のお召し物でね大丈夫してるのか分かりやすくてめちゃくちゃ楽しいです。こういう待機列でもというわけでね入場していきます。
I guess we're just here to see cosplay.
はいこんな感じですね。ちょっと私入場するのがねだいぶ遅くなってしまったのでちょっとねパラパラしておりますね。人がばらけておりますね。
Nico. So cute.
マジで たまたま入った瞬間ビビちゃんが出迎えてくれたんですけど、可愛すぎない？ちょっとさすがに可愛すぎて引いたんですけど、はい、最高です。というわけでちょっとネタバレでしたが、本日はフログローのキキララビビちゃんのコスプレで参加させていただきました。いかがでしょうか？個人的に結構ウィッグとか頑張ったので褒めてほしいところではあるんですが、というかまず更衣室の場所が去年と変わってて、私めっちゃさまよってしまってめっちゃ遅くなってしまいました。やってしまった。マジでちゃんと読んどけよって感じですね。はい、ありがとうございます。やったー。
She got some figures.
まだ来たばっかりなのにこんなにビビたの。ありがとう。優しい。ありがとうございます。神すぎる。ありがとうございます。
I guess cosplaying a character gets you figures, huh? It's free real estate.
はい、というわけで初っ端からめちゃくちゃ甘やかされております。前回もあったけえなと思ったけど、今回も変わらずあったけえですね。
It is a very fashionable design of Vivi's
みんなで押
assets.
していこう、みんなでビビタンを応援していこうっていう気持ちがみんな同じ一つになれた感じがしてとても最高でした。はい、というわけでご恒例の撮影エリアで撮影対応したいと思います。今回ですね、なんか撮影エリアが前回ともまた違ってて、ちょっとコスプレ屋さんエリアがね区切られていてちょっと分かりやすかったですね。撮影対応しております。ちなみにこの腰についてるリップ、外に弾け飛んだわ。頑張って一生懸命作ったのにクソ。はい、というわけで、皆さん撮影ありがとうございました。まあコスプレエリアなので他のレイヤーさんと写真撮ったりとかさせていただいて、めっちゃ可愛いマリちゃんいらっしゃったんで一緒に撮っていただきました。可愛い。いやハッピーです。ただね、私あと一人だけすごく一緒に撮りたいフォロメンがいてですね、今日はねそのキャラクターを探していくと思いますが、私はねビビちゃんすごく好きなんですけど、ペコビビがですねてーてーなっていう、かなり2人の組み合わせが大好きなんですね。なので今回はね、私の思うペコラを探したいと思うんですけど、
Beethoven is great. I'm still sad though that Beethoven is over basically. Language barrier is the devil itself.
コスプレイヤーさんいるなって思ったんだけど、あれ？まあめげずに探していきましょう。はい、こんな感じでね、パネルも置いてありますね。いや、最高だよね、いつも思うけど、ちょっとなんか一人で来てたからさ、普通にパネルと一緒に撮るハードルめっちゃ高かったわ。で、ちょっと、ほぼ諦めた。で、まあ、お腹が空いたので、一旦ご飯食べようかなと思います。去年ね、予約していかなかったらほぼ売り切れてたので、今回も売り切れてるかなと思ったら、今回はね、大丈夫でしたね。
Fully based on the numbers.
最高です。今回はね、ラプサマンのロコモコ丼と、このドリンクにしました。この中にビビタンが入ってるみたいなので、ビビ出ないかなと思いながらね注文していきました。はい、こんな感じでロコモコ丼めっちゃ美味しそうですね。我が輩の最強ハンバーグかわいい。これももらえてよかった。はい、というわけでね、ちょっとなかなか全身映す機会なかったのでここで見てください。いやー、リップ全部取れてんなはい、というわけでまずドリンクからいただいていこうと思います。なんかこれはホワイトウォーターとなんか謎のゼリーだったんですけど、すごい美味しかったです。さあ、ビビタンのコースターは当たるのか。お、はい、リオナが来てくれました。まあでもフログロだから嬉しい。いや、いつかリオナのコスプレもしたいね。可愛いよね。で、ロコモコ丼も食べてます。美味しい。ロコモコ丼美味しかった。やっぱハンバーグだよね。時代はハンバーグだよね。もうね、もりもり食べてしまいました。お腹が出る衣装だからちょっと気をつけようかなと思ったんですけど、いや、もうしょうがないね。美味しいから。美味しい。いやー、それにしても改めて本当にビビちゃんのビジュめっちゃいいですよね。本当に好きすぎる。全体的にフログロってちょっとかっこいい寄りにしてるからさ、女子受けもすごい良さそうな感じするよね。なんかビビット見かけた女の子のビビットもいたわ。めっちゃ可愛かった。はい、というわけでごちそうさまでした。美味しかった。お腹いっぱいです。ちなみに余談ですが、ちゃんとマグネットでつけれるタイプのアホ毛にしております。
マグネットアホ毛。That's cool.
いいんですか？
That's actually kind of smart.
すごい、やったー。こんなことあるんですね。いや、なんと今回また交換してくださる方いらっしゃいました。すごい ですね。毎回自分で当てられないのか私。自力一回もしたことないんだけど。いつも人に当ててもらって本当に申し訳ないですが、ありがとうございました。神。というわけで本題のペコラを探しているんですが、マジで見つかんない。なんか背のねめっちゃ高い外国人のふざけたペコラみたいなのがいたんですけど、いや本当に身長も完璧なペコラを探したいんですよ。一体どこにいるんだ。
She's still looking for Pecora, which is surprising. She's not finding a Pecora cosplay that fast. I feel like that'd be one of the big ones. She finally found it. The Pecora cosplayer. So it's done. かわいい。
クオリティ高くないですか。私もう本当に運命かと思って探してたんですずっと。ビビックとかの完成度がすごくて、よかったらなんかパッと撮らせてもらってもいいですか。これすごいっすね。いや私びっくりしたのがこの後ろ髪の
Big carrot.
これ大変なんですよ。これすごい。しかも人参もちゃんと刺さってるし、理想のペコちゃんがいる。ありがとうございます。
Julie, let's go. Alright, very nice.
ちなみにこの後船長のレイヤーさんも並んでくださってこんな写真も撮っていただきましたはいというわけでね、奇跡的な出会いも果たしたことなので今日は終わろうかなと思います。いや本当にすごいですよね、ホロエキスポ。いや次はフェスも参加したいな。マジでビビちゃんのさ浮気したらあかんでが聞きたすぎたんだけど、クソ参加した人感想教えてくださいね。やっぱ改めてさリアイベってなんかもっとこうホロライブをしていこうっていう気持ちにさせてくれますよね。わかりますか、この熱量、みんなの熱量をやっぱり感じ取ってすごい幸せな気分になりました。改めて撮影してくださった皆様本当にありがとうございました。すごい楽しかったです。はい、来年もねまたお会いできたら嬉しいな。というわけで面白かったらチャンネル登録と高評価お願いします。また次の動画でお会いしましょう。おちしょこち。
Yeah, that's Vivi. That was nice.
そして来たる4月5日に生誕祭を開催いたします。よかったらみんな来てね。楽しみです。
Interesting picture. Okay, I mean, pretty cute. Nice cosplay, and again, it's nice to see like a vlog of the expo. I enjoyed that. Oh, Vivi commented on this. That was nice. I enjoy this kind of stuff. Here's the link. Good video. Okay, what do we watch next? Let's see. We have this. I think I might have seen this before, so I'll pass. This I've definitely seen because the channel Tokyo Lands I've been watching for like a couple of years. I'm a big fan. Really good channel. I wish it uploaded more often though. But yeah, I believe I've seen this. I guess we can watch the car video, you know. When the WRC Met Its Match, the era of the kit car by Jaco Motors and the Lub. Okay.
When people think of rallying in the 1990s, their first thoughts are likely that of Subaru, Lancia, Mitsubishi, Toyota and the like, all being piloted by legends like Colin McRae, Carlos Sainz, Juha Kankkunen and Tommi Mäkinen. And while yes, these thoughts pertain to an especially great and, in my opinion, the greatest era in the history of the top level of the WRC, there was also an equally legendary form of the sport taking place in the shadow of these four-wheel drive monsters. Today, let's take a deep dive into the long gone but never forgotten FIA 2-litre World Rally Cup.
2-litre? Lot of smaller cars, huh? Okay, let's learn.
The 2-litre Cup found its beginnings back in the early 1990s. The WRC was still reeling from the sudden abandonment of the Group B rule set of the WRC and the switch to the slower Group A in 1987. While rallying as a sport was still immensely popular, there was a likely perception at the time that these new Group A rally cars were simply inferior to the Group B predecessors. And yes, while in many technical ways that may be true, they were still 300 horsepower race-ready monsters at their core. Still, the FIA likely wanted to branch out into new avenues to try and recapture that truly immense popularity of rally sport that the mid-1980s was able to provide. So the idea was devised to create a support class for the WRC, essentially a championship race at the same events but with lower spec cars to bolster the overall presence of the sport. And so the FIA would implement the Group A rule set for a lower class of car. Engine size was limited to 2 litres and they had to be naturally aspirated, and most importantly, front wheel drive. This was in stark contrast to the top dog WRC cars, despite them also being powered by 2-litre engines.
Like right away, my first thought is why though? Like I'm sure this is gonna turn out that it was pretty entertaining, but you know, when you put it like this, it doesn't sound very appealing. Just like a lower class with lower vehicle with, you know, more limitation and less power and all that. Like, you know, if you're a fan and you're being told that, it doesn't sound very interesting.
They were turbocharged and 4-wheel drive. Of course, with the majority of the WRC calendar taking place on off-road surfaces, the 4-wheel drive versus 2-wheel drive debate was pretty much non-existent. There would be no way these smaller cars could keep up with their more powerful brethren. They would be known as the F2 cars. 2-litre championships had been raced as far back as the 1970s, but now it would be an official FIA championship to run alongside the primary World Rally Championship. In its original form, it would be known as the FIA Cup for manufacturers of touring cars, a name that rarely rolls off the tongue. And despite this championship being of a lower class and, let's face it, prestige than the WRC, there was no shortage of manufacturers taking part, even in its first year, which was 1993.
Interesting.
In total, 14 race teams would go for the inaugural 2-litre title. Standouts from this early period include Skoda with their favourite 136L, notable for having just a 1.3-litre engine, the iconic Renault Clio Williams, and Lada even showed up with a rally-spec version of their Samara. For the 1993 championship, all rounds from that year's WRC would be raced for the 2-litre Cup, with the omissions of the Safari Rally and Rally Australia, leaving 11 rounds. But by the end it would actually be General Motors, specifically their European branch, that would take victory in 1993, with a very dominant 7 victories out of 11 rounds, giving them a 20-point advantage. Most of these wins were thanks to the Opel Astra GSI 16 valve, being piloted by soon-to-be WRC driver Bruno Thierry,
extremely civilian car looking,
making around 220 horsepower. The 7th victory was thanks to the Vauxhall version, which fittingly won the final round in Britain. Skoda, Lada and Renault Argentina with the clunky 18 GTX would also take victories. With a successful first season under its belt, the 2-litre Cup soldiered on into 1994. That year saw a round rotation system implemented into the WRC, and of the 8 rounds raced in the 2-litre Cup this year, Sweden, Australia and Spain were exclusively 2-litre Cup events, not seen in the main championship. Again, a solid number of manufacturers would have a team competing. Ford would make their debut with the Escort RS 2000, and other brands like Nissan with their Sunny GTI would begin to put more focus on the championship. Skoda would be the ones to take victory this year in the mere 1.3-litre powered favourite. Unlike 1993, it wasn't as dominant a performance as General Motors, with the likes of Nissan, Renault and Ford all seeing
it's kind of fun to seeing this little, like,
the most notable outcome,
you know, like this kind of car to me, from the look itself, is the idea of, like, you know, the kind of old car that the grandpa or grandma is driving and they got back in the 80s, 90s. You know, that's what I've seen them mostly, you know, this kind of a very small box car, you know. So that's kind of the impression I get. Obviously at the time, maybe that's not what they look like, right? They were new and fresh, but, you know, by these days or even 10 years ago or more, you know, that's the impression. So it's kind of cool seeing them like just absolutely zoom onto gravel and slide and, you know, go crazy. It's kind of cool.
1994 would be a change to the rules. Up to this point, the cars racing in the 2-litre Cup were simply road cars modified for competition. Towards the end of the season, the FIA modified the rules to allow kit cars to compete. Essentially, these were F2 cars, but much more modification was permitted than before. They would retain the overall chassis of the road car, but they could then fit purpose-built lightweight body panels. The greatest advantage of this was the ability to widen the body, allowing for a much wider track width, hence improved handling. Manufacturers now had the freedom to build some very specialised cars.
Interesting.
1995 therefore would see the roster of cars begin to see a shift. Peugeot swooped in and debuted their ever iconic 306 Maxi with an engine that Peugeot Sport modified so it could rev to well over 10,000.
I was gonna say like kind of stupid thoughts. You know, I have no idea and logical thinking of engineering, but you know, if you can build whatever you want, why couldn't you have a wheel in the middle of the car? Have a fifth wheel like in the middle, you know what I mean? Wouldn't that help in some way? Like having you know, some propulsion power from like the middle itself? No? Is that stupid? Probably.
RPM. Renault would introduce a more race-orientated entrant with the Clio Maxi, and
That's
Spanish
cool.
manufacturer SEAT would introduce their 16-valve Ibiza GTI. By now, there really wasn't one dominant team or car like in the earlier years. The kit car regulations were still being explored, and of the 10 total rounds in this year's championship, 7 manufacturers would see victory. Peugeot would be the team to take the championship this year despite just one win under their belts, with Renault and Skoda flanking them on the podium.
I'm actually surprised Peugeot and Renault are doing so well. I mean, they're basically the two biggest French car brand. And, you know, they're seen fairly good in France, though I've seen that overseas, I think people, you know, don't really like French car brand, right? But I'm actually surprised that, yeah, they're doing so well against Japanese car brand or US car brand and all that, yeah. I'm surprised. Yeah, I had a Peugeot myself.
Even in just its first full year, the kit car regulations were so successful out of the gate that the 2-litre manufacturers outnumbered the WRC manufacturers 2-1. In 1996 saw further additions to the kit car fleet. Renault, following the introduction of the Clio Maxi the year before, introduced the Megane Maxi, and Ford introduced the Escort Maxi. It seems that Renault's introduction of their Megane was a solid one, with the team winning 3 events outright this year. However, it would be SEAT that won the championship, despite winning just 1 round, beating Renault to the top by just 7 points, who beat Skoda to second by just a single point. The roster of drivers also began to solidify around this time too, with names such as Philippe Bugalski, Jesus Perez and Gilles Panizzi all seeing solid amounts of success in the F2 class.
7.
After a few years of good competition, 1997 would see the championship explode in popularity. Nissan re-established their position within the ranks with both the Micra and Almera GTI kit cars, Skoda replaced the aging Felicia with the Octavia kit car, Hyundai introduced their Coupe kit car, and both Peugeot and Citroën would opt to introduce smaller and lower powered alternatives in the 106 Maxi and the Saxo kit car respectively. Even so, SEAT would duplicate their success in 1996 with another championship victory in 1997, with an extremely impressive 70-point lead over Skoda. However, the biggest news this year came at Rally Catalunya, when tarmac expert Gilles Panizzi was able to claim an outright 3rd position. Just to be clear, this isn't just third in the F2 category, but third over all categories. Apart from two drivers, Panizzi had beaten every other WRC entrant in his lower class Peugeot 306. He would go on to repeat this feat in the following round at the Tour de Corse. This was unexpected to say the least. The WRC cars should be unchallenged on a rally stage, yet here's a plucky F2 car sitting among their ranks.
I mean, as always, like, is it the car or is it the driver? I mean, I'm sure it's a combination of both, but you know.
Begs the question, with the likes of Peugeot and Renault beginning to challenge the WRC cars on certain rallies, how was Seat still able to claim the 2-litre championship? Well, essentially the cars were built for different purposes. While Seat designed their Ibiza kit car with the intention of performing consistently across the entire F2-litre championship, being both adept on tarmac and gravel, the French manufacturers developed their kit cars with the national championships in mind, in particular the French Rally Championship, which was an all-tarmac championship. So while the 306 Clio and Megane absolutely smoked any two-wheel drive competition on tarmac, on off-road rallies they performed much worse. This extremely purpose-built aspect of the French kit cars would soon prove to become much more important than initially thought.
I'm born, I'm alive.
The ever-growing capabilities of the kit cars became even more apparent at the 1998 running of the Tour de Corse. While Colin McRae was able to triumph in his Impreza, Francois Delacour finished in second place, rolling across the line just 27 seconds after the Scot. The Impreza was undeniably a more capable car all around than Delacour's 306 Maxi, yet the results showed that on tarmac the advantage might not be so set in stone. With competitive times also given at the Catalunya and San Remo rallies, it was clear that it was only going to be a matter of time until the apple cart would be upset. Aside from this, the rest of the 1998 2-litre season was business as usual. Seat were able to claim their hat-trick this year, with a fairly uncontested spot at the top of the leaderboard. Despite very little rally experience prior to the 2-litre championship, the relative newbies had somehow managed to win 3 years in a row. This success convinced them to challenge for the main WRC Championship, and they would debut their Cordoba WRC at the 1998 Rally Finland, and 1998 would be their final year in competition in the 2-litre category. Despite the 1998 2-litre Cup being fairly uneventful, this was in stark contrast to the main WRC Championship that year. To find out why that was, check out this 1998 WRC recap video I helped to produce with The Rub, link in the description.
Cool.
And that brings us to 1999. This would prove to be simultaneously the best and worst year for the 2-litre Cup. By now it had become rather obvious that despite these kit cars being fairly lackluster on dirt and snow compared to their WRC counterparts, on tarmac with their much lighter weight and two-wheel drive system, they were the ones to look out for. However, up to this point it had never really been much of a problem. Sure, the close call at the 1998 Tour de Corse had turned some heads, but the WRC cars were always able to come out on top. And then Citroën came along and decided to cause some trouble. Following the debut of their Zara kit car in 1998, the French team had somehow managed an outright triumph in the French Rally Championship.
I guess I forgot about Citroën, yeah. Peugeot, Renault and Citroën are like the 3 big brands in France, yeah. Majority of the cars will be that. So. Yeah.
That year. For 1999, they had their eyes set on the World Championship. Following a rather standard first 4 rounds, with Renault proving to be the most dominant brand with their Megane Maxi, came round 5, Catalunya. This was one of the championship's historic staples, of course taking place entirely on tarmac. The Citroën team would select Philippe Bugalski and Jesus Perez to head up their attack. And to the absolute shock of everybody, Bugalski would win, not just in the F2 class, but overall. World-class WRC drivers like Didier Auriol, Tommy Mäkinen and Richard Burns had somehow been conquered by two-wheel drive. A whole decade had passed since a two-wheel drive car had managed to win a WRC event when a Renault 5 won the 1989 Ivory Coast Rally, and one had managed to once again. Everyone was stunned. But it was about to get even more incredible. Round 6, the Tour de Corsa, once again another full-on asphalt event. And you can probably sense where this is going. Bugalski would do it again, rolling across the finish line in a confident first position. To add to the success, his Citroën teammate Purus would manage to wrangle second. 2 spots on the podium were taken up by these kit cars. Citroën hadn't even bothered to race in the other rounds this season, yet had managed to claim a third of the season's victories so far. It was madness to say the least. And it was fair to say that there were a lot of unhappy people and teams. How far would it go before the FIA put a stop to it? Sure, a kit car could never outright win or even podium in the championship standings unless there were some extreme circumstances playing in their favour. But the mere fact that these four-wheel drive 300 horsepower monsters were being beaten by the much less impressive kit cars wasn't exactly a good look.
I guess it wasn't, but now it's already happened, so like, if you shut it down because of that, it seems pretty stupid, huh? I don't know.
So let's put a pin in that for a moment. Outside of the WRC upsets, the F2 category chugged along as usual. Despite Citroën winning 2 WRC events, the fact they weren't bothering to contest the rest of the rounds in the 2-litre Cup put them out of title contention. Instead, it would be fellow French manufacturer Renault that would take the victory, though Hyundai would get scarily close with just a 7-point difference between the two teams, despite Hyundai's coupe kit car having a noticeable problem with reliability and at times power. The only other manufacturer with any championship contention was Volkswagen, who weren't even classified due to them not homologating their Golf GTI kit car at the start of the season. A small-scale competition to say the least. This would, rather inevitably, prove to be the final season of the F2 Cup. The upsets at Catalonia and Corsica forced the FIA to rewrite the rule set and reclassify the cars that could compete in these lower classes. Plus, with the slow drop in manufacturers taking part and the rising costs, it was inevitable that the kit car would meet its end. The F2 category would quickly find itself replaced. This started in 2000 with the aptly named Super 2000 class in the Production World Rally Championship, and that was followed in 2001 by the Super 1600 class of the Junior World Rally Championship.
Still like equivalent.
Despite the F2 category being long gone by now, it really did pave a solid path for where the WRC is today. Sure, the WRC cars of the time were more iconic and are still remembered by most if not all fans of the sport, but these little front-wheel drive monsters provided a really unique and exciting alternative form of action for spectators. By the end of its run, the kit cars were more like purebred circuit racers than lower-class rally cars. You may disagree with that sentiment, but the fact that they were so dominant on the tarmac events is certainly no fluke. Additionally, the class would create an environment that both drivers and manufacturers alike would use as a springboard that directly led to some outstanding careers later down the line. Brands you'd never really associate with rallying, such as Honda and Daewoo, saw the lower cost entry points of F2 as a great way to find a start in the sport. Both Citroën and Peugeot saw massive success competing with kit cars, which would lead to them having successful outings in the main WRC in the 2000s, with Peugeot going on to win 3 constructors titles, and Citroën going on to win an astonishing 8. Drivers such as Gilles Panizzi, Harry Rovanperä and of course Sebastian Loeb would find their starts in the class and would go on to see equal success in the WRC, Loeb likely being one of the biggest success stories in motorsporting history. David versus Goliath is probably an overused phrase to describe another story, but I think when the kit cars, even just for a moment, were able to triumph over the WRC cars, well, let's just say that David certainly knows how to drive a kit car. thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If I
I
missed
did.
anything...
Very interesting. I mean, I'm guessing again, like, there's equivalent to that today. Even if it's not exactly the same rules and restriction, but like a smaller league for smaller cars with a smaller engine and all that, right? I'm guessing there must be an equivalent. I enjoyed it. As always, history of sports is something I enjoy. You know, even if I don't really watch the sport myself, it's a good Duels story. Good Duels story. Okay, so yeah, quite a good video. But yeah, I think we'll leave it at this one for today. It's been a good 2 hours. I enjoyed it. Thank you everybody for sharing some videos. That was nice. As always, remember that you can share more videos for the next time, right? I mean, just go to Discord and, you know, share them in the random reaction tab, basically. If you wanted to, you know, you don't have to wait for a stream, you can share them in advance and then I might open them for the next time. But yeah, we'll leave it at that for today. Tomorrow I'm doing another prefecture stream of Japan, Miyazaki Prefecture. Sunday stream, and also I'm launching my membership on Sunday. Come watch if you're interested. As always, like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next time. See you.